Let's go to the phones where we find our next guest. Congressman Andy Biggs joins us now. He represents Arizona's 5th Congressional District. He's a member of both the House Judiciary and Oversight committees. Congressman, good to talk to you as always, sir.
Hey, thanks for having me. Good to be with you, Vince.
I was just talking to Molly Hemingway a moment ago about this, but I'm curious what your thoughts are about. Joe Biden says that the border is in crisis. He just announced over the weekend that it is a crisis, despite his prior claims that it was merely a challenge, and that the only way he can shut down all of these illegal invaders is if Congress gives him new power. So this is easy, problem solved, huh, Congressman?
That is rich, since he issued literally 100 executive orders within the first few days of his presidency, most of those taking away what had been put in place to stop the surge on the border that had been working. Yeah, he doesn't need new powers. He needs fewer powers. And Congress needs to take back its authority. And the way you take back your authority when you're Congress is you use what the founders gave you, and that is the purse strings. And so you say, we're not going to fund all of the bad government that you want, Mr. President. We want to see something happen on the border before you get the normal government. And we probably should never fund the normal government path that we're on now. But you should be saying you're not going to get everything you're asking for because you're not securing the border and protecting the American electorate, the American citizens.
Yes. If presidential powers allow the president to abandon us and allow an invasion to take place, then we need to strip the president of those powers. That's outrageous.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point. So when he says, he comes to the conclusion that the border is a crisis, and his solution, which is kind of going along with this Senate plan that's going together, is to say, instead of, 3 million a year, we're going to reduce it to 1.8 million encounters, people coming in illegally. We're going to misplace over 100,000 kids and all the things that are going with it. And, even FBI Director Wray gets it right once in a while, and he says, look, all these people coming in, we don't know who they are, and it constitutes a national threat. You got probably terrorist cells that are on the loose. You got criminal gang members sneaking into the country as well. So, yeah, we don't need Joe Biden in charge anymore of the border.
No, we don't. But why are Republicans going along with this? I know that that's not the case among all Republicans. I know this is a split thing. But, James Lankford, the senator, was on television this weekend saying, this bill, it's subject to so much misinformation. Really? Well, here's something you could do to resolve that. Release the text. Why haven't we seen the text of this big border rescue package?
Well, because it's a big stinker, and he knows it's a big stinker. They don't want it to get out there because it'll be dead before its birth, maybe. I mean, it's so in the House, the Speaker's already said it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to move. Which good on him, because
right.
Everything that's leaked out is terrible. What really needs to happen? How can you justify even if it's 5,000 a day? How can you justify that? We should have no illegal aliens crossing a day. Here's a point of reference. Last year, Donald Trump's president, the entire Yuma sector, which is 142 miles across Arizona, California, and Mexico, fewer than 9,000 encounters, fewer than 9,000 illegal aliens coming through there. They get that about every 12 days now. That is what happens when you actually enforce border law because you want to, versus you welcomed everybody in. People forget. He said, I would recommend people search the border if I get elected to be president.
Right.
And they have.
They definitely answered the call. No question. In fact, they come across the border, then they thank him. If cameras ask at all, occasionally reporters would ask, why are you here? They'd say Joe Biden. So it's crystal clear who created this crisis. What role does Donald Trump have, the former president, perhaps future president, have in this? I see over the weekend he's happily taking credit for intercepting this and placing some pressure on the Senate to try and kill this obvious amnesty package. Does the fact that Donald Trump has basically stitched up the nomination now, does that give some added pressure on Capitol Hill for people to do the bidding of the people instead of their own thing?
Well, you would think so, and I generally believe that that's the case. But there is this little cloud in my mind that says some of these people know that when Donald Trump becomes president, he's actually going to enforce border law. He is going to enforce the removals of people that come in illegally. He's going to enforce Remain in Mexico policy or last safe country policies. And I think that some of them are saying, well, we better hurry because if Donald Trump becomes president, all this goes away. So let's hurry and get this through and change the law and make it more difficult even. Because if this were to become law, it actually becomes more difficult for the next president. Just like if H.R. 2 became law, it'd be more difficult for the next president not to follow that law.
Right.
And I think they're trying to grease the skids for bad policy before President Trump comes in.
Yes.
While a lot of us are saying let's just kill this where we can.
This has been my fear, too, that in addition to all the other bad things we've heard about this bill, it's designed to kneecap Donald Trump's ability to get the border under control.
Yeah. No, I think that's exactly right. And it will. It will be a problem. There's a reason why people are really hostile to this plan. When you look at it, if you just go down and talk to people on the border, are you okay with 5,000 coming in? So last weekend, just give you last weekend, Friday night, group of 800 people at the Tohono O'odham Reservation, the gate there called San Miguel Gate. It's in the middle of nowhere, Vince. The next night, a group of 700 people. And in order to get there, they have to meet in a village 60 miles south called Caborca. The coyotes bring them up and drop them off and say, "Keep walking north. You're gonna hit a barbed wire fence. Just cross it and wait there, and the CBP guys are going to come pick you up." And that's how bad it is right now. And nobody along the border is saying, "Hey, 5,000 is going to work for us." Isn't it? The other thing I'd point out: where are these people negotiating from? They're not negotiating. You're not getting people that actually get down to the border every few weeks like I do. Mm-hmm. You're seeing people from Oklahoma, New York, wherever they are, and they're the ones that are negotiating this bad deal.
Let me ask you about the state response to this. So Texas, of course, has responded with mixed response over time, but they've gotten more and more aggressive at trying to secure their own border. And the basis for that is what the Attorney General of that state, as well as the governor, say is their constitutional rights as it relates to an invasion. There's two portions of the Constitution they point to: Article 1, Section 10, which enables the state to defend itself against invasion, and Article 4, Section 4, which requires that the federal government protect the states against invasion. I guess at its core, do you agree that what we are seeing right now is considered an invasion by any common understanding of the word?
Yeah, I think so. So, I mean, if you were definitionally look it up, I think you're going to find in international law, this is an invasion. Look, you don't have over 3 million people coming across your border every year without that being considered an invasion. And so I think definitionally it's there. The other thing I would say with Article 1, Section 10 and Article 4, Section 4 is that's a political question as well. And the state should be allowed, in no small measure, to make the determination whether it is being invaded. And I don't see why a court wouldn't agree with that. The third thing is the courts have talked about this area before, and what they've talked about is they said, is the federal government, have they vacated the field? And I would make the argument that the federal government has totally vacated the field. They're not even letting their CBP agents who want to, and those line agents want to enforce the law, their management won't let them enforce the law.
It's even worse. It's even worse than vacating it. They're actively destroying barriers to prevent people from getting in.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's right. And that's all coming from management. You go down and talk to the line agents, they want to enforce it. But I go down there and there'll be miles, long stretches, sometimes 100 miles with no agents there. Why? They're all processing. They're all transporting. And that's why it's willful. Vince, it's willful. And that's why, we get back into Mayorkas. Why should he be allowed to continue?
Right.
He's caused this, and he should not be allowed to continue.
Well, this is definitely one of the areas I'm trying to get. I want the White House to be on the record about, okay, if this isn't an invasion, what would qualify? Like, what number of people would be necessary crossing our border each year to be considered an invasion? What's the threshold for that? Because they refuse to say it. In fact, I guarantee if somebody were to ask them, they would say it was very offensive to say this is an invasion. These are people escaping oppression. Meanwhile, of course, it's like endless military-aged males, many of whom are on the terror watch list, who are pouring into our country. And the federal government's aiding and abetting it, Congressman.
100%. And don't forget, an invasion concomitantly usually is going to have some injuries, some victims. We do have injuries. We do have victims. They are bringing across drugs that are poisoning Americans. And it's not like it's normal drug trafficking where they're bringing it across and people are making these choices. A lot of this is out-and-out poisoning with fentanyl and additional drugs now, where they're actually they're putting fraudulent pills. People get them, no intention to take that drug at all. If they get it, they die. No other place in the world would put up with it. I mean, if you were to look at France now, France is actually starting to step in and say, we've had enough with the illegal aliens, and they're trying to tighten their laws significantly. So, I mean, when it comes to France, and France is trying to tighten them, you know that we're way behind because we're doing the opposite. We've got an administration and we've got members of the U.S. Senate and the House that still want to actually facilitate this horrific practice instead of actually tightening it up.
It's so ludicrous. Congressman, this weekend, House Republicans on the Homeland Security Committee released their draft articles of impeachment against the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. You just mentioned that a moment ago. The first article is for, quote, willful and systemic refusal to comply with the law. The second is for the breach of the public trust. And this is, of course, I mean, I could practically write these articles of impeachment. I'm not even a lawyer or a member of Congress. There's such a laundry list of reasons why Mayorkas deserves this. I think a lot of people could name them. Is this going to be a worthwhile exercise, though? I mean, obviously the House is going to do this. It's up to the Senate whether or not they convict. Do you think this is worthy of the House's time right now, and will it serve a good purpose this year?
Yeah, I do think it is. I think it's worthy. Number one, it is our duty. I mean, and when the founders put this provision in, they talk about high crimes, misdemeanors, but when you look at the discussion, what they're talking about is public officials breaching public trust.
Right.
And then the other thing they'll talk about is if that person were to continue in office, it's such a danger to the American public that you need to remove them before the normal term of office would expire, and that would be hopefully in January of next year. I don't think you can go another 12 months like this, and so we've got to do all we can in the House. Obviously, we can't control what happens in the Senate, but we can control what happens in the House. And what Mayorkas has done is willful. He's lied to Congress. He's lied to the public. He's reinterpreted. He actually testified he didn't like the current statute on the Secure Fence Act about what operational control of the border is. So he said that we created our own, and we're doing fine under our own interpretation. I mean, those types of things are willfully disregarding your duty, and there's a difference between disregarding your duty and you're out of incompetence or maladministration. That's something very different than saying we're going to change this because we think actually to enforce our border laws, which he has said this, is not humane. So we're going to change the border laws ourselves. And so you have a violation of the separation of powers as well. I mean, this has just been really a disaster. And I filed my first ones 2 years ago because after watching 7-8 months of this, you knew that this was going to go to where we are today. We're actually tardy in removing this very dangerous person.
Yeah, it's a willful subversion of the law. Okay, finally, Congressman Andy Biggs, I saw your name come up in relation to I just want to ask you about the January 6th pipe bomb investigation, because I know you're one of the congressmen who's been digging in to all of this. Yep. Thomas Massey was sharing some information last week that revealed that the person who found those pipe bombs, those infamous pipe bombs on January 6, 2021 outside the RNC DNC buildings was actually a plainclothes Capitol police officer, so that mystery thickens. Have you learned anything else over the weekend about this? Are we going to get more answers in the near term about what those pipe bombs were and who placed them? Well,
let me just say this. We knew that you had an agent provocateur undercover actually a year and a half ago. And so you continue to, it just comes out in drips and drabs, and everything's been stoned. We've been stoned on everything so far. So are we going to get more information? Yes, I think you're going to get more information. Is it going to be timely? No, it's already way late again. But it'll keep coming out in drips and drabs. And the question will be, will the American public have any interest in continuing to find out what happened January 6th? I think they will. I think they will, because this is lingering. You've got this guy Graves, who's the U.S. Attorney in D.C., who is now going after people who were outside, peaceful, and yet he wants to prosecute thousands more of them. That will continue to drive people like myself to continue to investigate what went on, how we find out what went on, and then what we should do to remedy that, make sure it doesn't ever happen again.
All right. Congressman Andy Biggs, thank you as always for hitting all those subjects with us and your time on the program as always. Really appreciate that.